Hello, everybody, and welcome. Almost said welcome to the Paranormal guys. Good Lord. I've slept at least once since then. How is everybody today? Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Sportcat's Daily Gazette. Hello, Denise. Welcome. Glad you're here. Hello, Wendell. Who are you flirting with, Wendell? Stop that. But we do know that Denise has soft, creamy skin from last night's chat. And I think I saw Chris in there somewhere. I'm not sure. So I hope everybody's having a great day. I want to encourage everybody that is on either Radio X in Australia or Yerg's Radio to come over, and Rainbow Radio to come over and find us on the Paranormal Guys with a Z on YouTube. Paranormal Guys. Hey, KG, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Who else we got in there? Chris, welcome, welcome. It looks like my normal group of misfits is here. Good, glad you're here. Hope everybody's having a great day. But I encourage everybody, and I appreciate everybody at Radio X Australia and Yerg's Radio and and Rainbow Radio. I appreciate your support, and I'm glad you're listening, allowing us to tickle your ears. But come over and see how ugly I am, because Mom said I had a face for radio. Here I am. At any rate, for those of you new, we cover things that maybe all the time the mainstream media doesn't cover. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes we have strange things to report, and other times it's just, well, little old me talking. So let's see. We got everybody caught up in the chat. Let's just go ahead and jump right into this and see what kind of mayhem we have for today. We'll start off with something a little bit nicer than normal news. How about that? We'll start off with something a little different. Let me bring my screen up here, and here we go. All right. So March 27th, 2025, and it's currently in the United States, 1:03 in the afternoon. And today is National Joe Day. Did you know that? National Joe Day encourages everyone to enjoy a cup of Joe with all your friends named Joe, Joey, Joseph, Josephine. And while you're at it, don't forget Joette, Jody, Johanna, Jody. That's a different spelling on Jody. Or any other variants. If you didn't know it, you could create quite a few nicknames from this one. Yes, you could. It is also National Scribble Day. So I encourage you to go out and scribble, get your crayons. I know a lot of my listeners have crayons, so I encourage you to go out and get your crayons and, you know, enjoy National Scribble Day. And it is also, what was the other one? National, now I'm going to have a hard time with this one, Spanish Paella Day. In observation of National Spanish Paella Day, a rice dish from Spain has become popular and known worldwide. All right, well, it looks to me like rice-roni when I was growing up, but maybe not. So go out and get you some Joe with a buddy and enjoy some Spanish paella. There you go. How about that? So I educated you for today. I know it's tough to do. It's a rough job I got here. All right, so we'll jump right in. This comes to us thanks to one of our alert listeners. Top MS-13 leader was arrested in Virginia. U.S. authorities have captured the U.S. M13. And if you don't know what MS-13 is, it's a nasty gang. It's a top leader for the East Coast. The FBI announced on Thursday. Officials captured the 24-year-old suspect in Woodbridge, Virginia. That's Northern Virginia, about, 25, 30 miles outside of D.C. Was just south of D.C. Authorities have yet to release his name, but they say he is one of the top 3 leaders of the MS-13 gang in the U.S. Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel monitored the arrest as it took place Thursday morning. The operation included the FBI, Prince William County Police, ATF, ICE, and the Virginia State Police. And they just captured the major player in MS-13. Congratulations. Donald Trump congratulated him, and so did Tom Holman on X. So that is great news. We got one less person off of the street. But never fear. President Trump is fuming as Obama judge grabs another Trump-era case. Now, no, Wendell, I did not. I apologize. I have been derailed for the past week. So no, I did not, Wendell. But everybody, please go over and watch Wendell's show after you're done watching mine and after you hit the thumbs up and subscribe button to me. Go watch Wendell's show. All right, there, I gave you a free plug there, Kate, or Wendell. All right, so President Trump is fuming. He sounded off on Truth Social, which is his social platform, Thursday after Judge James Boasberg, the U.S. District Court for District of Columbia, was assigned to preside over a lawsuit lodged against the Trump administration and the National Archives record. The Obama-nominated judge has been presiding over a lawsuit alleging Trump's invocation of the Aliens Enemy Act for authority to deport Venezuelan members of Tren de Aragua, which the U.S. has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Trump is quoted as saying, "How disgraceful is that judge? He's just been giving a fourth Trump case, which is statistically impossible. There is no way for a Republican, especially a Trump Republican, to win before him. He is highly conflicted, not only in his hatred of me, massive Trump derangement syndrome," I'm quoting President Trump, "but also because of disqualifying family conflicts," Trump is asserting in his social media post. Boasberg, who is the chief judge of the D.C. District Court, seems to be grabbing the Trump cases all to himself, even though it's not supposed to happen that way. Is there still such a thing as the wheel where the judges are chosen fairly and at random? The good news that it probably doesn't matter because it is virtually impossible for me to get an honest ruling in D.C. Our nation's courts are broken, with New York and D.C. being the most preeminent of all their corruption and radicalism. I'm quoting the president there. There must be an immediate investigation of the rigged system before it is too late. Trump is calling for Boasberg to be impeached. Trump called for Boasberg to be impeached earlier this month. I do not know how they picked the cases. I meant to look that up, but I did not. So guess what? Even though we've arrested a bad guy from another country, well, we're going to have to keep him, apparently. A federal appeals court on Wednesday maintained that the temporary block on the Trump administration's use of the 18th century wartime law to swiftly deport alleged Venezuelan gang members. All right, so the bigger picture, a divided D.C. Court of Appeals ruled that the lower court order halting the use of the Alien Enemies Act to stand as a high-stakes legal battle testing President Trump's power is playing out in front of us. All right, so Judge Patricia Millett wrote that there is neither jurisdiction nor reason for the appeals court to interfere at this point or to allow the government to single-handedly moot, I assume that means throw out, the plaintiff's claims by immediately removing them beyond the reach of their lawyers or the court. Okay, well, Judge Justin Walker, who dissented, wrote that the district court in D.C., and I believe he is correct, is not the right place to hear the case, and that the government likely faces irreparable harm to ongoing, highly sensitive international diplomacy and national security operations. The Trump administration earlier this month defied U.S. District Court Judge Boasberg court orders barring the deportation of those the White House alleged are members of the Venezuelan gang. The administration claimed the two deportation flights, which were not turned around as per the judge's order, had taken off before the written order came through and were justified under the Alien Enemies Act. They also argued that it did not comply with the order since no deportation flights took off from the U.S. after the written order came down. Boasberg has refused to lift the ban on the deportations and slammed the Justice Department for refusing to invoke the wartime law, for rushing to the wartime law. Oh my God. Let's see who we got in here. Welcome, Brenda. How are you? Yeah. Well, he's got a new do. I don't know. He's still orange, but he's getting more gray. This job will kill you. So, all right. So yeah, the same judge that's doing that is stopping that is handling all the cases. He's been upheld by the district court. So I would assume the next stop is, well, the highest court in the land. We'll see how that goes. I'm not sure that it'll bode any better for the president. All right, some new news. This broke this morning. Trump has directed spy satellites to surveil the U.S.-Mexican border. The Trump administration has directed 2 intelligence agencies to train their satellite surveillance capabilities on the U.S.-Mexico border as part of a sweeping crackdown on illegal immigration and drug cartels. The National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, now I got to admit, I had not heard of this one. The NGA and the National Reconnaissance Office, NRO, which are part of the DoD, Department of Defense. You seen a trend here with acronyms? Oversee spy satellites and analyze imagery for the Pentagon and other intelligence organizations. Their engagements, coupled with troop deployment, show increasing militarization of the southern border, where Donald Trump has declared a national emergency. Reuters could not determine whether the effort, which had not been previously reported, would gather imagery of the U.S. territory. Asked by Reuters their role in the border surveillance, the NGA said it had created a task force to coordinate its support to the U.S. border mission, while the NRO said it was partnering with the intelligence community and the Pentagon to secure U.S. borders. Their participation is in response to the sweeping executive actions taken by the president at stopping unauthorized border traffic and crossing, as well as deporting those in the United States illegally, which is estimated to be upwards of 14 million. Get them out. Get them out. They have no constitutional rights. They don't get a court case, but that's just me. That's my opinion. Let's see. Oh, we got a bunch of stuff going on in the chat. Yeah, those letters do cost a lot of money for us. We talked about ad nauseum, the Signal thing. Well, it turns out we're not alone. Our friends in Australia use it as well. The national security head admits using disappearing messages on an encrypted app for work days after the revelations of the top U.S. officials accidentally texting bombing plans to a journalist on the same platform. The Department of Home Affairs Secretary Stephanie Foster said she had used the messaging app Signal and in some cases set her text to disappear after a period of time. It's a setting in the app. I use messaging apps, Signal included, for the purpose that one might typically use a phone call to set up a meeting or to ask if someone's free, she told the Senate. And Senate estimates on Thursday, should I have message that needs to be retained, then I absolutely know what my obligations are and I know how to retain it. Green Senator David Shoebridge grilled the secretary over the app in reference to a notorious incident in the United States where a journalist was inadvertently added to a Signal group chat in which national security leaders were discussing America's attacks on the Houthi rebels in Yemen. The chat included precise details about weapons, targets, and the timing of the bombing, alongside the officials using emoji-filled reactions. They're human. Come on. Messages had been set to disappear after either 1 or 4 weeks, which raised questions over whether the U.S. law had been violated, as text messages about official acts are deemed records that should be preserved. The Australian Home Affairs Department has risk assessed and accredited Signal in accordance with a system security framework and has instituted particular protections. Public service must have a work account associated with the app, and Signal can only be installed on their work devices. There is no prohibition on disappearing messages, but employees have to be conscious of their record keeping and privacy obligations, according to department officials. All right, so there you go. We're not the only ones doing this, which should not come as a shock. All right, and so in other news, a U.S. judge calls heat in Texas prisons unconstitutional, but he stopped short of mandating air conditioning. Yes, this is breaking this morning. A federal judge found the extreme heat in Texas prisons is plainly unconstitutional, but declined to order the state to immediately start installing air conditioning, which could cost billions. The ruling affirmed claims brought by advocates of people incarcerated in Texas, where summer heat routinely soars above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 Celsius, for weeks, but they will have to continue pressing their lawsuit later in a trial. The lawsuit was initially filed in 2023 by Bernie Teed, the former mortician serving a life sentence, whose murder case inspired the movie Bernie. I haven't watched that one. Several prisoners' rights group have asked to join his legal fight and expand it to encompass all of the Texas prisoners. The lawsuit argues that hot conditions in the state facilities amount to cruel and unusual punishment that seeks to force the state to install air conditioning. Well, you know, you were the one that knew you were headed there by doing bad stuff. Texas has more than 130,000 people serving time in prisons, more than any state in the United States. Only about a third of the original, roughly 100 prison units are fully air conditioned, and the rest have either partial or no electrical cooling. The case concerns the plainly unconstitutional treatment of some of the most vulnerable, marginalized members of our society, U.S. District Judge Robert Pittman wrote in his ruling on a request for a temporary injunction against the state. The court is of the view that the excessive heat is likely serving as a form of unconstitutional punishment, but the judge said that ordering the state to spend millions, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to install permanent air conditions in every prison could not be accomplished before such an order would expire. Pittman said he expects the case will proceed to trial, where advocates for prisoners continue to argue their case. He also issued a warning to the state that they will likely win at trial, that the state could face in order to install air conditioning. The judge also noted that the state legislature, which is in session through May and writes the 2-year state budget, is also considering bills that would require air conditioning to be installed in prison. But the Republican, I highlight that there, wonder why, majority legislature has been hearing complaints about extreme heat in prison for years and had not addressed the issues. In 2018, when the state was ordered to install air conditionings at a unit for older prisoners and those that are medically vulnerable, a lawyer for the plaintiffs and the officials at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice did not immediately respond to emails seeking comments. Texas is not alone in facing these lawsuits for hot prisons. Cases have been filed in Louisiana, New Mexico, and now in my home state of Georgia, where a man died in 2023 after he was left in an outdoor cell for hours without water, shade, or ice. A November 2022 study by the research at Brown, Boston, and Harvard universities found that 13%, or 271 of the deaths in the Texas prison without universal AC between 2001 and 2019 may be attributed to extreme heat. Prisoners' advocates say those numbers are only likely to increase as the state faces more extreme weather due to climate change. In a week-long hearing that sought to order for air conditioning, while the lawsuit proceeds, people who were formerly incarcerated testified about their experiences in hot prison buildings, where they said the temperatures reach above 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which would also be 49 Celsius. They testified some inmates would splash toilet water on themselves to cool off, fake suicide attempts to be moved to cooler medical areas, or even deliberately set fires so that the guards would be forced to hose down the cells. Brian Collier, the director of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, acknowledged that the heat was a factor in 3 deaths from multiple cases in 2023, that the prison and staff and inmates sometimes fall ill from high temperatures. But the state disputed that hundreds of deaths in recent years alleged by the prisoner advocates and argued Texas has implemented effective heat mitigation measures, such as providing fans, towels, and access to cooler areas. He insists that he would like to have air conditioning installed across the entire system, but state lawmakers have never agreed to spend the money to do that. Well, what do they say about Texas? Brenda is on a roll. She says, don't do things that end up there. Oh my God, we already pay for their food and everything else. Well, there goes the sidewalks I was working on so I can get around in my wheelchair. Hey. You got Governor Hot Wheels now. Calm down. So they have to write Republicans so that the readers are aware he's the bad guy to be hated in the story. You're absolutely correct, Chris. That is media bias. This story comes to us from The Guardian. So there you go. And we talked about for a few weeks that There's been space operations in Alaska. Why? So I kind of did a little homework, and apparently Boeing is growing an Alaska-based homeland missile system. It's going to be defense silos, and there's going to be 20 of them. It's a Boeing-led team, has finished building 20 new silos in the Homeland Missile Defense System at Fort Greely, Alaska, growing the number of interceptors that can be in place there from 40 to 60. Recently announced it had officially installed the first 20 additional silos for the ground mid-course defense system, which is now over 20 years old. It's designed to counter intercontinental ballistic missile threats from North Korea and Iran. This also includes silo interface vaults, which are adjacent underground electronic rooms that maintain readiness and effectiveness of interceptors, according to the company. The silos are located at the 4th Missile Field at Fort Greely. There are 40 ground-based interceptors, or GBIs, it's another acronym, in place, where with another 4 in the ground at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The expansion effort initially began under President Trump's first term and has continued throughout the Biden administration. The Pentagon Missile Defense Agency initiated reprogramming funding in 2017 to increase the number of the ground-based units in the new missile field from 44 to 64. And the senator in Alaska has recently, and he's a Republican, proposed a bill to expand the GMD system from 64 to 80 and consider a similar site on the east coast of the continental U.S. part of possible elements of President Trump's, quote, Golden Dome missile defense architecture for the homeland. The president signed an executive order to establish a missile defense shield during his first few weeks in office. And Boeing won a contract from the MDA. I'm going to go back and remember what these acronyms are. To integrate testing, that's why we're seeing all those restrictions on flights up there, to ensure the readiness of the GMD system in the summer of 22. Boeing originally held a development and sustainment contract for the GMD system, which was set to expire in 2023, but they split the contract to encourage competition and drive innovation amid system modernization efforts. So they have awarded Northrop Grumman part of the contract as well. So they will determine whether there will be more silos needed, apparently. And I don't know if I brought it up, but there is also a effort by the Alaskan government to make the homeland, or I'm sorry, not the homeland, but the Space Force larger and take up some national park service. So that's going on, and they're doing testing up there. So Brenda says they need to worry about fixing their planes. Well, after this article, you might argue that, Brenda. According to news coming out today, China is practicing dogfighting in space. I thought dogfighting was illegal. Isn't that what they got Michael Vick for? The capability gap between the U.S. and its competitors has significantly narrowed. Chinese satellites have conducted coordinated maneuvers with synchrony and control, a top Space Force official revealed Tuesday, dubbing the moves dogfighting in space. The service is starting to see our near peers focusing on practicing dogfighting in space with satellite-on-satellite operations. Vice Chief of Space Operations, General Michael Gilton, said during an annual McLeese Defense Programming Conference. With our commercial assets, we have observed 5 different objects in space maneuvering in and out and around of each other in synchrony and in control, and that's what we call dogfighting in space. They are practicing tactics, techniques, and procedures to do in-orbit space operations from one satellite to another. Following his comments, Space Force confirmed he was referring to a series of Chinese satellite maneuvers in 2024 in low Earth orbit involving 3 24C experimental satellites and 2 Chinese experimental space objects. While dogfighting traditionally refers to air-to-air combat between fighter jets, with the concept that what that concept looks like in space and where the dynamics differ significantly is less defined because there's no friction or atmosphere, objects must rely heavily on thrusters to maneuver. They also have outlined several other adversarial threats in orbit, including nesting dolls. Oh, that doesn't sound good. That could launch anti-missile weapons satellite that shadow U.S. satellites, and satellites equipped with grappling arms that can tow another satellite or hold it hostage. He also flagged Russia's development of a nuclear weapon designed for space. Unfortunately, our current adversaries are willing to go against international normal behavior and gentleman agreement, and they are willing to do it in a very unsafe and unprofessional manner. Okay, remember the Air Force blew up stuff in space blew up nuclear bombs in space to see what they would do in the 40s and 50s. So, all right. So think about that. The capability gap between the U.S. and its competitors has also significantly narrowed, he said, urging the U.S. to rethink its approach to space behavior, and the adversaries don't gain the upper hand. And his comments follow aggressive calls from Space Force leaders for more resources to establish space superiority for use military force, including offensive weapons to control space domain. We're going to cover that in a second. To get the new service's space superiority mission, he said the service needs to change its culture and training and buy new kit. We're only going to be as good as the amount of resources we are willing to put towards space superiority, he said. I'm not sure what he means by new kit. So, well, all right. Let's see what happens here. Oh, it's official. This came out last week, and I didn't see it. Space Force wants to use lasers in space. Let me catch up here with the comments. Yes, Brenda, Denise, yes, okay, gotcha. All right. So despite the name, Space Force doesn't have much force in space. The service is trying to change that and build up its orbital warfare capabilities, according to the Chief of Space Operations for Space Force. Earlier this month, Space Force General Chance Saltzman outlined ways he intended to add offensive elements to his branch. Speaking at the Air and Space Forces Association's Warfare Symposium, they have a symposium for this, talked about the concept of space superiority, especially the outer space version of air superiority, and what it would take to achieve that against near-peer adversaries. That includes employing kinetic and non-kinetic means to affect adversary capabilities through disruption, degradation, and even destruction if necessary. It includes things like orbital warfare and electromagnetic warfare, and its counterspace operations can be employed for both offensive and defensive purposes at the direction of combat commands. However, as he prepared his remarks, he refused to get specific on what weapons the force wants, and as earlier reported during Roundtable's comments, he outlined 3 categories, seeking each containing ground-based and orbiting systems. These include directed energy weapons, better known as lasers, radio frequency jamming, which is kinetic, and the means to outright destroy enemy ships and satellite. The mix of weapons is meant to give the widest range of capabilities and deal with targets at varying distances in orbit, according to sources. Those proposals are a notable change from past visions of the space-based weaponry. We talked about this. It was a gentleman's handshake. Well, apparently it's changing. A Cold War in space is happening. The U.S. military, including the Army and Air Force, looked at potential ways to arm troops in orbit that range from handheld pistols that would use springs to fire bullets to anti-satellite rifles based off Claymore mines. One Air Force video from the 60s imagined space planes that docked in orbiting stations firing missiles at enemies. Let's go back to the 60s, so we probably already have it. Notably, weapon systems in space present unique challenges, and various tests have shown over recent decades. Outright physical destruction from hard kinetic interceptor strikes can cause a wide amount of debris that remain in space, presenting harm to other satellites and spacecraft. Lasers and jammers could take out enemy satellites without causing that, they say, but they refuse to get into specifics on what kind of jamming weapons that they're looking for. So, interesting. Since its inception just over 5 years ago, Space Force has primarily been focused on building the American's military satellite network in orbit for better communications and early warning missile launch detection capabilities. Last year, the service announced plans to deploy ground-based jamming systems meant to cut into adversary satellites, overwhelm and disrupt and pick up their capabilities. Saltzman's comments to reporters this month shows that Space Force is looking to expand but add in more outright destructive tools to its arsenal. Yes. In its current spaceplane project, X-37B Bravo has completed 7 relatively secret and long flights in orbit. The uncrewed tiny spacecraft is unarmed, but some art released by the Space Force has imagined other future space planes physically intercepting enemy satellites. He added at the symposium the service would soon publish Space Force doctrine document, which would outline Space Force's vision for orbital control and warfare in detail. But from his remarks earlier this month, it is clear that he wants the U.S. Marines armed with laser weapons and transported to space via a ship. But a broad array of terrestrial and orbital weapons are being eyed. So, interesting. I would think that we probably already have this if we're talking about it, but what do I know? All right, so we'll get back to pissing off China here. Let's catch up in the comments. Let's see what Brenda. They should not worry about our Earth first. They should worry about our Earth first, not space. Well, that's true, but if the enemy's already using it, who knows? All right, so the U.S. Army plans Australia test of missile launcher that has irked China. Huntsville, Alabama. Bobby, pay attention. U.S. Army plans to conduct a live shot with its Typhoon missile system in Australia this summer during the Talisman Sabre exercise, marking the first firing of a long-range strike weapon on foreign soil, according to Major General Frank Lazino, Program Executive Officer for Missiles and Space. The Army will deploy its second battery and will fire an SM-6 missile from the system's launcher, he told Defense News in an exclusive interview at Redstone Arsenal amid the Association of U.S. Army Global Force Symposium. The other Typhoon battery, also referred to as the Mid-Range Capability Missile System, was transported to the Philippines in the spring of 2024 as part of an exercise marking the first time new capability deemed vital to the U.S. Army's Indo-Pacific strategy is being deployed. The mobile ship sinking system has remained in the country since then, much to the disapproval of China. The Typhoon launcher has traveled more than 8,000 miles from Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington, aboard a C-17 Globemaster cargo aircraft on a 15-hour flight. The U.S. Army had not conducted any live fire exercises with the system in the Philippines yet and does not plan to do so during this year's training, which will kick off later this spring. The Lockheed Martin built system consists of a vertical launcher system that uses the Navy's Raytheon-built Standard Missile-6 and Tomahawk missiles, can strike targets from 5 to 2,000 kilometer range. The complete system has a battery operations center, 4 launchers, prime movers, and modified trailers. Okay, so this is the first reported use of the Army to pursue mid-range missiles since September of 20. The Army fielded capability in less than 3 years. The first Typhoon battery belongs to the 1st Multi-Domain Tank Force in the Pacific. The third battery is for the 3rd MDTF. More acronyms. The Army is building these formations to be dedicated to specific theaters and designed to address specific military needs in those regions. There will be 5 MDTFs in total, and 3 will be dedicated to the Pacific. The second MDTF is in Europe, and the 5th has yet to be formed, but will be stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and will be designed for rapid deployment where it is needed. The first 2 batteries were fielded to JBLM. Good Lord. This is a whole article of acronyms. And the Army is now getting ready to take receipt of the 3rd battery from its producers, according to Lorenzo. That battery will go to Europe's 2nd MDTF. Goodness gracious. So we're going to be pissing off China by having rocket launchers in Australia. Yay. I'm all for that. especially since they want to dogfight in space. Who do they think they are? So, all right, Brenda, this one's just for you. Governor Hot Wheels. Abbott fires back after Crockett mocks him for being in a wheelchair, saying nothing to sell but hate. And she is facing censure in Congress and has been called a liar over her response to the controversy. Texas Governor Greg Abbott slammed Representative Jasmine Crockett, Democrat from Texas, this week after the inflammatory 43-year-old lawmaker mocked him over being wheelchair bound. Abbott made the remarks during an interview with Fox Sean Hannity on Tuesday night after Crockett referred to Abbott as Governor Hot Wheels. It's another day and another disaster by the Democrats, Abbott said. The reality is they have no vision, no policy. They have nothing to sell but hate, and the Americans are not buying it. It's one reason why Texas is going to remain red and why Republicans are going to continue to win elections across the country, he continued. The fact is that Texas is actually in direct contrast to what she was talking about. Texas is ranked number 1 for the most new jobs in America over the past month, number 1 in the most new jobs over the past year. He said that CEOs have consistently ranked his state as the top state in the country for running businesses. Abbott was studying for the bar exam at age 26 in 1984 when he took a break to go jogging. As he ran, a large oak tree along his path cracked and fell on his back, leaving him permanently paralyzed from the waist down. Doctors discovered several crushed vertebrae, splintering into his spinal cord, broken ribs, and damage to vital organ, Abbott has said on his website. Well, Governor Hot Wheels. And by the way, there is also already a meme out of Hot Wheels cars that are wheelchairs that I'm pretty sure AI will probably make a thing before long. So that could be a challenge coin, Brenda. We could make a wheelchair challenge coin that looks like a Hot Wheels. That might be something to sell. I don't know. Wonder if it'd be popular. I'll make it. I'll do it. Yeah. All right, here's something you don't see every day. The Trump-Putin fake news reporter was on AP's misinformation team. The Associated Press recently retracted a fake news article that claimed Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard had said President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin were, quote, good friends. The reporter who wrote the piece was a featured member of the Wire's service first official misinformation team in 2019. The AP has withdrawn its story. The AP announced in a March 17th statement. Notice this was buried. Nobody heard about this. Gabbard was talking about Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. That's kind of a big mistake. Not only did a reporter get basic facts wildly wrong, no editor involved in the article's publication took the time to double check what would have been a statement of major international importance. Yeah. Had a leading member of the Trump administration actually made it. How does that happen? Such a blunder is inevitable given a journalism climate in which those who report the news come packed to the gills with rigidly partisan preconceptions. This wasn't a rookie error. David Klepper, the AP reporter involved, has been with the service since 2011. He served as the Rhode Island State House reporter for 3 years before becoming the New York Capitol correspondent from 2014 to 2019. His LinkedIn profile states his experience shouldn't be an issue. His actual duties at the AP from 2019 through the summer of 2024, however, surely are. They call it journalism. AP launches misinformation team to expose false info, the news outlet crowded in November of 2019. Klepper served as the Associated Press Technology Misinformation and Extremism Group for 5 years. He was a key part of the AP's first administration misinformation team, focusing on explaining falsehoods, propaganda, and conspiracy theories while exposing the creators of this material and their techniques for dissemination. So explaining the news instead of just reporting it. What could possibly go wrong? As misinformation reporter David covers the nexus of extremism, disinformation technology, a 2022 AP announcement of additions to its Washington bureaus read, he has written extensively about the impact that misinformation has had on information elections around the world, including the U.S., the Ukraine war, COVID-19 pandemic, and more, frequently breaking news about Facebook, Twitter, and other technology companies. In his work, he has routinely revealed distinctly partisan animus, and he specifically did so with Gabbard, the official whose quote he got so twisted. Here's part of the original article that the AP deleted from its quote corrected version. Gabbard, remember this is misinformation, Gabbard, who oversees the nation's intelligence service, has in the past echoed Russian propaganda about the war and expressed sympathy for Russia. It wasn't the first time he wrote in that vein. He utilized the same loaded prose against Gabbard February 12th, reporting on her DNI confirmation by the U.S. Senate, and the AP has not retracted it. Keep in mind, these aren't opinion columns he's penning. His articles are presented as straight news from the AP. Fact check, AP fact checks aren't factual. In August of 2020, Klepper co-authored an AP fact check that decreed it a matter of unassailable truth that leftist Antifa radicals were being falsely accused of engaging in acts of violence at Black Lives Matter street protests. This hollow claim was largely the nefarious work of white supremacy groups that were promoting some of those falsehoods online, the AP proclaimed. His J6 coverage was even more over the top. This is what the AP calls news writing. By excusing former President Donald Trump of his responsibilities, minimalizing the mob violence, and casting the writers as martyrs, falsehoods about the insurrection aimed to deflect blame for January 6th, while sustaining Trump's unfounded claims about free and fair elections in 2020 that he lost. Good Lord. He wrote that as part of a January 2022 news piece that could be described as frothing screed. And here's Clapper's view on Musk in May of 2023, shortly after the billionaire bought the platform known as X. Musk has laid off much of the staff at Twitter dedicated to ferreting out misinformation and toxic content, and has since emerged as a source of misinformation himself. A new Twitter feature called Community Notes was created to allow users to add context or fact-check claims themselves, but no community notes were attached to Musk's own tweets about the gunman on Wednesday. It's hard to act like you don't have an axe to grind when you're chopping up your beat like that. There's so much garrulous errors as Glaber quote fiasco comes about. When the news is treated as a vehicle for prefabricated agenda, it's only a matter of time before elementary facts and grotesquely mishandled along the way. After all, they're just ingredients to be sliced and diced in the creation of a greater dish that is meant to be anything but truly informing the reader. All right, so that comes to us from the Liberty Nation News, where they promote free thinking and free speech. So you notice that wasn't put out on regular news. Shocker. All right, come on, give me my button. All right, I'll just make my own button. What do we have here? Let's see. Brenda is in the chat today. I love it. Let's see. Yes, I can't say that word on radio, Brenda. Brenda, she is fired. Well, I'm sure she's going to win in another election or two. And Brenda says, I'm going to run for governor of Texas. Well, all right. I've had talks with him. He is nice. I assume you're talking about the governor. And Brenda should roll for governor. It's probably safer, according to Chris. Denise says, you've got my vote. Hey, I'll vote from here. I can vote in Georgia and Tennessee. So there you go. Yay, there's 3. I'm on the move. Well, you're on the roll, Brenda. I need to run for mayor of Susie's Town first. Oh, Lord. I don't know where that's in Arkansas, isn't it? God save Arkansas. All right, so... we're almost covering our first hour in news. That's shocking. Haven't even got to our normal wheelhouse of stuff yet. There's been so many headlines. and so many that the mainstream media has not reported, which is why you need to come over and find us on YouTube, where we look for these obscure articles or these things, and we read them. And sometimes I will blurt out my opinion, and I'm sometimes biased, so I will admit it. But it does allow for a different form of media. We encourage you to come over to the Para Are Normal Guys. Para Are Normal Guys is spelled with a Z, guys, G-U-Y-Z. So come over, like, follow, share, and subscribe. And you can join the comment, and you can roll in here with Brenda, Chris, Wendell, Denise, and KG, my regulars, who I love and appreciate. All right, another article we didn't see anywhere else. North Korea has sent 3,000 more troops to Russia, according to the South. And we see a picture here of Kim Jong-un in front of a very large drone. North Korea has sent 3,000 additional troops to Russia in January and February in continued support for Russian President Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine, South Korean military sources said Thursday in its latest assessment. The South Joint's chief of staff said North Korea has also been sending more missiles, artillery equipment, and ammunitions to help Russia, and that North Korea could increase its weapon supplies further depending upon the war situation. Russia and Ukraine recently agreed on a limited ceasefire, though both sides have accused each other of violating it. Yeah, we haven't heard much about that. Military equipment North Korea has sent to Russia includes a considerable amount of short-range ballistic missiles, 170 millimeter self-propelled howitzers, and around 220 units of 240 millimeter multiple rocket launchers. North Korea has sent approximately 11,000 military personnel to fight in the war against Ukraine in its first involvement in a large-scale conflict since the 1950 to 53 Korean War, and the Joint Chiefs assess that about 4,000 of them have been killed, injured, or wounded. South Korea's National Intelligence Agency previously attributed the high North Korean casualties to the troops, likely struggles in adapting to drones and other elements of modern warfare. North Korean troops are further disadvantaged by the crude tactics of their Russian commanders, who have sent them into assault campaigns without providing rear fire support, according to a spy agency. Still, Ukrainian military and intelligence officials have assessed that the North Koreans are gaining crucial battlefield experience and have been key to the Russian strategy, overwhelming Ukraine by throwing a large number of soldiers into the battle for Kursk. The South Korean military reports came after North Korea Kim Jong-un leader expressed his unwavering support for Russia's war in Ukraine during a meeting with top Russian security officials last week in Pyongyang. Pyongyang, is that said right? According to state media reports, he reaffirmed their commitment to uphold a major mutual defense treaty agreed upon last year. Well, of course he's going to support the war. It makes him money. We are always talking to everybody about exchanging visits. We're always preparing, he told them. All right. So he's also showing off his new drones. Yeah. So now they're saying that North Korea has new drones, and the agency is reporting that these resemble the U.S.-made RQ-4B Global Hawk, which appeared in 2023. So he appeared to be boarding an airborne early warning aircraft similar in appearance to the Boeing E-7 Wedgetail. And other images show exploding drones crashing into military vehicles used as targets. The agency said the demonstration and reconnaissance drones' ability to track multiple targets and monitor troop movements on land and sea potentially enhances North Korea's intelligence gathering operations and ability to neutralize enemy threats. The report said new exploding drones are designed for various attack missions and features unspecified AI capabilities. Kim Jong-un has expressed satisfaction with the drone's performance and approved plans to continue and expand production, emphasizing that drones and AI should be a top priority in efforts to advance his armed forces and adapt them to modern warfare. Well, all right. So Kim Jong-un is approving drones that explode on impact. Interesting. When asked about the possibility of early warning aircraft, with which North Korea state media unveiled for the first time, Spokesperson for South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff said the North likely had modified an existing plane to create an early warning aircraft that may have used certain components from Russia. He said the aircraft's operational capabilities have yet to be proven. All right, so there you go. Our friends over in North Korea are sending people to help in Russia, and they're building drones. All right, so let me catch up here. People are stupid. The biggest military is the USA, Russia, and China. If they join, it's good because you don't want China and Russia. I'm assuming it's against U.S. She must be mad. She's yelling into her phone, and it's not translating well. I don't know what you're saying, Brenda. So she's on a roll. We'll hop over to our regular stuff here in a second, but Trump is calling for Congress to defund NPR and PBS. President Donald Trump called on Congress to stop giving taxpayer money to the governmental-run media entities, National Public Radio, and the public broadcasting services. NPR and PBS, two horrible and completely biased platforms, networks, should be defunded by Congress immediately. Republicans don't miss this opportunity to rid our country of this giant scam, both being arms of the radical left Democrat Party. Just say no and make America great again. That's Trump speaking. That was his post on Truth Social Thursday. Trump asked the FCC Commissioner Brenda Carr to open an investigation to determine if NPR or PBS violated federal law by airing commercials. The heads of the two media outlets on Wednesday faced intense questioning from members of Congress over alleged liberal bias in the reporting and content. And Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, oh Lord, and she did something yesterday that made headlines in Georgia, but why is it always the Georgia representatives that are nuts? Scolded the executives at NPR and PBS and have increasingly become radical left-wing echo chambers for a narrow audience of mostly wealthy, urban, white liberals and progressives who generally look down on and judge rural America. Greene added, "We believe that you all can hate us on your own dime." We believe that you can all hate us on your own dime. Okay. Senator John Kennedy, who's a Republican for Louisiana this month, introduced legislation to end federal funding for NPR and PBS. About 1% of NPR is federally funded, according to the outlet, while 16% of PBS comes from taxpaying dollars, which equates to about $500 million. Republicans have long threatened to strip funding for NPR and PBS, but have never acted. Nearly twice as many Americans support the continued federal funding of public media outlets as opposed to it, according to a survey released Wednesday by the Pew Research team. While not a majority, 43% of those surveys said the federal government should continue to fund NPR and PBS at present levels, and 24% said the government should stop funding the outlets, while 33% said they were not sure. Broken down by party, 32% of Democrats said they regularly get their news from NPR, compared with only 9% of Republicans. 31% of Democrats and 11% of Republicans said they regularly watch PBS. I can't recall watching PBS since I was a child, and it seems like it was Sesame Street and the Electric Company. I don't even know if they still have the Electric Company and Sesame Street. I don't know. Well, all right, so let's see. Well, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but wildfires rage in the Carolinas as hundreds are evacuated. Another day of fire danger is forecast through the Carolinas as wildfires continue to rage due to wind, low humidity, and a tinderbox of dry down timber left in the wake of Hurricane Helene. North and South Carolina have declared states of emergencies for multiple counties, seen evacuations of hundreds of residents and several structures destroyed. Fire threats continue Thursday, but to a lesser degree than Wednesday, with no red flag warning in place. However, humidity levels will be below 25% for the East Coast, and there will be a strong wind, though lighter than yesterday. NBC meteorologist Dylan Dreyer forecast it's all hands on deck on the ground in the mountainous parts of the states, and statewide burn bans are in effect. In North Carolina, there are 8 active wildfires in the state. We'll cover that here in just a minute. So, all right, so let's jump over to our we normally do, and then we'll get into some fun news maybe if we get time. So in case you don't know, the reason I started this show was to do a daily briefing, such as the president would get every morning or every afternoon, depending. And yesterday, it was reported in congressional hearings that the majority of information in the president's daily briefing comes from public source things like we have. So not all of it's secret squirrel mojo. I would like the secret squirrel mojo stuff, but they're not going to give it to me. So in fact, I'm probably on a list just for doing this. So it's all right. I've been there before. I'm friends with Brenda. All right. So we're going to start off where we normally do. It's almost the top of the hour. Let me thank the Radio X Australia team for helping us build an audience there. And to Yergs at Yergs Radio and Rainbow Radio, we thank you for allowing us to tickle your ears, and really wish you would come over here and join the chats with Brenda, Wendell, and Chris, and Denise, and KG, and well, there's a couple more. At any rate, you can find us at the Paranormal Guys. Guys is spelled with a Z. So please come over, subscribe, like, comment, and share. Join the chat. I'm sure Brenda would love to argue with you. All right, so we're going to start off the daily operations briefing. This comes from the FEMA National Watch Center and is dated Thursday, March 27th, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. National current operations are things they are monitoring. No new significant incidents or operations. And they are monitoring severe thunderstorms in South Texas and the Central Plains, heavy rain and flash flooding in South Texas, and freezing rain in the Northern Plains and Upper Mississippi Valley. Yes, you heard that right. Freezing rain in the Upper Mississippi Valley. Declaration activity for disasters. They have declared two new ones. They've declared a new one in Alaska, and they've amended one. All right. In the Alarka fire, number 5 in North Carolina. Did I say that right? I'm sorry. They approved the number 5 Alarka fire for North Carolina, not Alaska. Whew. I need glasses. All right. So the Region 4 regional administrator approved the fire management assistance grant for the Alarka fire. It's not Alaska, it's Alarka in North Carolina. It is 0% contained, and over 1,000 acres have burned, and they have called in resources from counties, states, and now the Fed is going in there to help. And critical infrastructure has been damaged. Of course, we know that from Hurricane Helene, which is making the incident response even worse. And securing mutual aid because, well, it's difficult when the people who usually come to help need help themselves. So, yeah, there's been response issues, but so far the fire luckily has reported no injuries or fatalities. Let's keep it that way. When we look at the wildfires summary, we know about Oklahoma. Only 2 of those in Oklahoma are reporting any containment. One at 77, the other at 11, while 10 are burning in total. They talked about the fire weather outlook. Well, FEMA was a little bit different than what the North Carolina meteorologist said. He said that North Carolina was more of an area, but according to FEMA, today it's pretty much from south of the border, the tip of Texas, almost all of New Mexico, and then from the top of Texas, extending northeast and right in the Great Plains. Tomorrow will be elevated for pretty much all of New Mexico. The national forecast today, well, that tricky snow is still hanging around from Northern California, pretty much all of Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, skirting along Nebraska and Canada up there, where it eventually comes down, taps the Great Lake energy, and gets New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So they're getting snowfall, mixed precipitation, and believe it or not, there's going to be freezing rain in the Mississippi Valley. You heard me correctly. What did Chris says? I saw Alaska or Atlanta. They caught me too. Yeah. Friday, look for that snowfall or mixed bag of precipitation to increase as it expands eastward. And it's going to encompass much of the West, including parts of the Midwest. and much of the northeast, especially the main corridor. And Saturday, it's going to try and push further south as snow, with heavy rains expected across middle parts of the country and deep at the Texas border there, extending all the way up into Alabama and Louisiana. And Saturday, pretty much the entire Ohio, Midwestern, Southeast, except for the Mid-Atlantic region, can expect rain. All right, so they're calling for excessive rainfall, or potential for precipitation, excessive precipitation, it's easy for me to say, from where we talked about Northern California all the way up the border there of the Rainier Mountain Range into Canada, and then some slightly down in Colorado, but then it'll extend again in the northeast, and that's where we will see some severe flooding also down in Texas. So be weather aware. I encourage everyone to have a weather radio and have it ready and charging and be able to turn it on quickly. And the hazards outlook for today is pretty much the areas we've discussed. The only area we have not discussed is high winds in Alaska. We'll see here in a bit if they still have these space operations going on under the high winds. We'll look at the FEMA common operating picture. We know that they're pretty much active all through the southeast, from West Virginia along the coastline down to Florida, where they're working on everything from repopulation to fighting fires. In Texas and Oklahoma, obviously, they are there helping fight fires. So you can go and see the preliminary damage assessments for each region, and you can see that the declaration requests that they have had either in process or they have. And with the amendment that I just shared as Alaska when it was North Carolina, oopsie. Oh, well, we're all allowed to make one mistake, right? That was in 2 months. I've had one glitch. Come on, give me a break here, guys. Speaking of glitches, you ever wonder if he's real? I mean, you think about it. He's an orange man, and you see him, and his hair is always changing. His colors are. You ever just wonder about that? Just curious. All right, so we look at today at the president's daily briefing schedule and his public schedule that they publish today. Of course, we always say it's a 9 o'clock in-pool press time. And then at 11 a.m., he has already got his presidential daily briefing. And then at 2 right now, he's signing more executive orders, which is closed to the media. He will be in the Oval Office. And then tonight at 8, the president participates in a White House. And I do not know what an iftar dinner is. The White House iftar dinner. Somebody Google that one for me and find out what iftar means. So, I don't know what an iftar is, but that is at 8 o'clock in the state dining room. I'm going to assume that it's a tuxedo event, and hopefully First Lady Melania will be there. All right. I'm not going to really cover this because we covered it mostly in the FEMA daily briefing, the forecast. And we talked about the potential for precipitation, mixed bag of precipitation stretching from Northern California up to the Canadian border, and then following the Canadian border all the way along out through the coast of Maine, with some parts of Texas getting extreme flooding along the coastal area, and then in the Great Plains as well. There are no tropical warnings or outlooks. Everything looks good, even coming up for the weekend. So if you're planning on going out and boating, be safe. Everything looks nice and fine out there. And in the Pacific, it appears that there is nothing there either. So you can go out and enjoy the weekend coming up. And the potential for severe weather, as we expressed in Texas and in the Midwest, will only continue through tomorrow. After that, everything should pretty much be rain the day after. And the other things that we have to worry about, let's say we've covered all that already. So yeah, we've done this. So Chris reports iftar's Arabic is the first breaking evening meal of Muslims in Ramadan at the time of, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Adhan, a call to prayer of the Maghrib prayer. Okay. Thank you. I did not know what that was. So it's the breaking evening meal for the Muslims in Ramadan. All right. It's interesting. Let me update this real quick. This is the wind map for the United States. It's not our famous globe that we use, but we do utilize it to show you some things early in the show. We see that most of the wind is coming from the south down in the Gulf of America, pulling almost all the way. Actually, it is. It's pulling all the way up, hitting the Rockies there and making a little bit of a U-turn, but going into Canada. We see out in the Pacific, it's also coming from the Pacific going northward. The only area that's getting a little dry spot is the Ohio Valley. It's not as windy down, extending into the Appalachian, Tennessee Smoky Mountains, almost down to Tallahassee. The mid-Atlantic coast is not as windy today, which is good for the Carolina states over here, which are fighting the fires. And we will look at it more in depth here in a second. Chris says, I love how this map highlights Columbus, Ohio, when no other map does. Yeah, it's weird. It's got to be where they're based, because some of them do weird things like that. Like when I zoom, let's see, when I zoom in here, of course, this is a Georgia one. It brings Georgia out, it highlights it. So I guess it's just what they all do. The blue dots represent earthquakes. Wendell, we will discuss some earthquakes here in a moment. Red flag warnings are only up here in the areas of, Wyoming, in the pretty much western half of the state. The severe precipitation coming out the Pacific that we discussed is creating some high wind advisories through the, the Rogue Valley going down into Southern California. Northern California. And then the one storm we see that's pretty intense, pretty much from, I don't know, what would you say? That's from Jefferson City, extending almost all the way up to Illinois to the Great Lake there. And extending eastward into the tip of Louisville. And we see down in Texas, down at the coastline of the Gulf of America, from Austin to the coast is pretty much under a flood watch, with the most severe storms right now being down at the tip of Texas. I'm trying to think. That's not where Brownsville is. Brownsville is further northeast, or northwest. And that's pretty much it for precipitation, except, this is up in Canada, off the coastline there, New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. And we know that it is snow. That front that was coming across the United States is now pushed out and affecting Bermuda. And there's some storms out over the open waters. Hop down to our friends down under, and we'll see that Courtney is still spinning around down there as a tropical high, but has not made it to cyclonic events. And we look at the radar currently off of the northwestern coast of Western Australia. We see the storms there. Hopefully they're pushing westward, but the storms over the Queensland area at the coastline will be pushing further inland, crossing the Northern Territories today. While I just had a brain cramp. While Brisbane south, pretty much centered around Brisbane and going to the west, is some rain activity, but the heaviest storms look to be along the coastline there in Brisbane. And what is this? Tenterfield is where the most severe storms are in Walla. I am so sorry, Radio X. You need to send me hate messages for this because I don't know the town names. Walla Gangara has got a severe storm with a little bit of one there in Lyra. So I don't know if you all have weather radios like we do. I assume you do. So please turn them on and use them. And down in Wagga Wagga, there is a pretty significant cell looks like out of nowhere that's got some pretty angry storm clouds in it. So keep an eye on that. And then over here from Sydney, from Sydney south down to, Lake, I can't read it. Lake Conjola. Looks like along the coastline there are some storms. So we will track their movement here in just 1 second. Let's see, zoom out a little bit. Don't see anything other than that one cyclone. We talked about the earthquakes, and there have been some more significant earthquakes we'll get into today. All right. So Australia has some great city names. Yes, I know, and I'm surprised I have not got hate mail from them for me butchering some of the names, for which I do apologize. All right, so we look pretty much the radar satellite is like I discussed. Brisbane, rainy, and I'm giving temperatures in Fahrenheit, so I apologize. Cairns is rainy, Brisbane is rainy, everywhere else is clear and appears a bit cool. Townsville, it's 78. That looks to be the high area, is in Townsville. Let's over here to see more and see what more is. See more butts? Is that, well, no. Now it's taking me to the United States. All right. We'll leave that one alone. We come to this one. This one's a little bit more accurate because it shows the actual winds and how they're blowing from the east to the west. And this one does emphasize Invest 93S 28U. It's a high chance, and it's off the coast there of Western Australia, with the potential for it becoming a storm and maybe making a turn to the east. So keep an eye on that if you're in Broome, because that could become something you want to watch over the weekend when I'm not here to help you. We'll zoom out a little bit and catch over to the US, and we look at the cloud cover here. I'm going to go look at this live, so let's just go to the live shot here in a minute. We're going to bring up weather warning, and once again, I do not endorse this site or get anything from it other than the sheer pleasure of relaying it to you. Andy is sending text messages up again in Maryland. I don't understand. He sends text messages consistently. The newest thing is in Texas and Kennedy, Willacy. There are some severe thunderstorm warnings. So that's new. Wind advisories in California, Oregon. We discussed that. Let's see. There's probably going to be some gale warnings off of the coast. Wyoming has the red flag warning, while Nevada has the hydrologic outlook, which is more rain. Brenda, you need to tell our boy to come over here and join us. Delaware has issued a special weather statement that's affecting the beaches. It's probably going to be gale or wind warnings coming off the coast. Wyoming, we talked about with the red flag, and we get into the craft and gale advisories off of each coast. Alabama and Florida will be experiencing rip currents today. It looks like it just updated. Maybe Andy tested again. Let's see. Then we get down into the seas and gale warnings and a special weather statement for Georgia and South Carolina. I'm going to assume that will be red flag for tomorrow, or it could be, we'll look at the air quality. It could be the air quality alert. God knows the air sucks in Atlanta. All right, we'll skip up here real quick to make sure nothing new popped up in the past few minutes. It's all for Texas. Texas is getting some severe thunderstorms. So if you're in Texas, keep an eye on this. Down along the coast of the Padre Island, apparently there's some severe thunderstorms down there. We'll see the lightning activity here in just 1 second. Actually, let's just see. Let's just bring it up right now. All right. Yes, they're getting hammered. So we zoom in down into south of San Antonio, all the way down to the tip of Texas is getting some severe lightning right now, really over the Rio Grande City. They're getting hammered, as well as south of, what is that, Brooke County. I don't know a town name there, but they're getting hammered right now over towards the coastline. And then Corpus Christi, if you are in South Corpus Christi, there is some severe weather with a lot of extreme lightning in the area. The whole coastline there, pretty much from Victoria southward to the Mexican border, over the coastline of the Gulf of America. It's getting some intense lightning. Albuquerque, some lightning is being reported, but you're in not as much danger of lightning as Texas is at the moment. Up in the Midwest, we see that Missouri and Kansas City area are getting hammered by storms and lightning, and a little bit southwest of Kansas is seeing it. Brenda, why do you always yell at me? Brenda says that Andy is eating right now. Well, he could watch YouTube while he eats. We could be his lunchtime entertainment. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the U.S. We look out in the coast, or actually in the Atlantic region of the ocean, and that storms that moved across the country have pushed outward. And let's see if this tells us anything about down under. It does. And we see that those storm cells we discussed sitting off of the coast of Queensland, the northern tip, are a little bit dicey right now. Otherwise, it appears to be it for your lightning. And where is this? This is over in North and South Korea, where there's a storm raging right now. So I don't know enough of the town names to tell you. And if you're listening to us from Italy, you're seeing some extreme lightning right now. And so is this Greece? I think that is. I'm not sure. All right. So let's move onward because we've still got some stuff to cover. You guys are hanging with me. I love it. I love it. Thank you for your support. Please remember to hit that thumbs up button. All right. We were talking about air quality. Well, here we are. Air quality. Let's move this legend out of the way because we know what it means. And look at the United States. Pretty much the central of the country is from Kansas City southward, Nebraska southward, extending to the southeast is, well, nasty air. It's not as bad as El Paso, and that's probably because of the fires and the smoke we'll see here in a bit. And in Phoenix, the air quality. Well, yes, Denise, thank you. I do appreciate all of you. If I don't tell you enough, I really do. I appreciate you. Sometimes you all get me through days where you have no idea. Let's see. Chris up in Springfield, Illinois, depending on where you're at, your air could be good or moderate. Over in New York, it looks like you are in the clear, Denise. Brenda, your air quality isn't that bad, but all around you is. And my friend in the Colorado mountains, well, it looks like you could have some moderate air conditions and air quality conditions. And that might just be because of the season. She sent me pictures from there yesterday. And it was snowing. And I was like, why are you people wearing t-shirts? Pretty much all of Mississippi, extending down to almost Louisiana, to the coastline, New Orleans, all the way around to the Keys, almost the entire state of Florida is under moderate air quality conditions. I would assume a lot of that is due to us being in the South with that nasty green stuff or yellow stuff, pollen. Ugh, it's horrible this time of year. All right, we won't really concentrate much on the fires, but so much as the wind map of smoke. We see most of the fires out in Nebraska. Their smoke is extending pretty much all the way across Kansas, parts of Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee. We should see some smoky, hazy days extending all the way over to the Outer Banks, down to, well, even Georgia, almost the entire state of Georgia. Those fires are blanketing the Panhandle in the Gulf of America, all the way down to almost Tampa and across to the Atlantic with smoke. And that is your smoke map. As you can see, that makes for probably the worst air quality. You'll see the wind flow here in a minute pushing this all out. So, yuck. Yeah, hold your breath if you're in Florida. Yeah, not even the Keys. Well, the Keys are kind of safe at the moment, but we'll see where the wind is blowing. But yeah, it's those fires out in the Midwest are really producing a lot of smoke. All right, which brings us to our fire map. And once again, if you're just watching, all these little red dots do not indicate that those are active fires. However, they have been reported by satellite or people and not confirmed. But as we look and zoom in on Oklahoma, we can see that pretty much Oklahoma City West, they were battling with those fires. And the new one, I don't know if that's not a new one in Kansas City, or not Kansas, in Missouri. What is it, down in the Ozarks? And we still see the fires in the Carolina Mountains on the their Appalachia side. And this one was the biggest one they were concerned about on top of the Blue Ridge Mountains, right at the Tennessee, Georgia, Carolina borders. In Georgia, the only new fire appears to be one in the northwest section above Rome. And zoom in here where I'm at. These must be small brush fires that they're getting reported, like up around Lake City area in the mountains, because I have not received any reports of fires. And the one in Knoxville, this one may be accurate but it's a little bit off because this is Sharp's Ridge, and there was a fire on top of Sharp's Ridge that somebody messaged me about. So, and then we see off the coast of North Carolina, those fires in Wilmington, in, I can't remember this county name, Juniper Creek Gameland. Oh, by the way, let's zoom down to Florida and see what they're doing. They have one fire reported, and what is this? In the Ocala, it's in the southeast section of the Ocala National Park. And then we look down here, and they have almost got it quenched in Homestead, right along the Route 1 corridor going out to the Keys. So, good deal. What is that one there? That one's been contained. All right, good. They're getting some containment on the fires in South Florida. All right, so that is your fire report. Let's go up here to Montana. In Wolf Point, there is one been reported in Cottonwood and Spring. I think that's new. The red flag warning we talked about in Wyoming. And down here in, these are probably wind advisories. No, fire weather watch in the lower section from Denver south and the lower section of Albuquerque and part of the tip of Texas, just the tip. Just the tip. All right. I pulled this one up because, well, it's that time of year. Tree pollen hasn't changed pretty much. The line extending from Northern California all the way across, covering much of the Midwest, all the way to the Atlantic seaboard, is anywhere from green to yellow in pollen, with in the south in Georgia and Alabama and the 2 Carolinas being red. Texas, you're getting red, meaning the pollen is high there. The grass pollen is pretty much in line with that, but the breathing index, according to the National Weather Service, says that pretty much a large section of the country is okay, but we just reported that it wasn't. What the heck? So shame on you, National Weather Service, or this is Weather Channel, whoever this is. And where's our pain index? Where's aches and pains index? I don't understand this map, but it's from the Weather Channel. And it explains aches and pains with higher or lower levels of weather-related pain based on surface pressure, humidity, precipitation, wind, and temps. And Brenda says, I can't tell. What can't you tell, Brenda? Is it a secret you can't tell me? But there is your aches and pains map. It looks like the most severe aches and pains are from Montana westward, well, almost Oklahoma. And pretty much that's about it in the United States. Otherwise, it's just kind of achy and painsy over through the Midwest. I don't understand that map, but I like talking about it. So, all right. So we're going to go to our favorite. This is the fan favorite. If you're new to the channel, or if you're listening, this is the big blue globe that you can spin around. It's AI and wind, and you can look at wind around the world, and you can spin the globe like a top. Or would be a ball. Unless it's in Brenda's case, it would be a pizza. It would be flat. So, all right. So see the winds off of the Pacific. It's still trying to make its way inward. It sat there for a while off of the coast of Seattle down into Oregon. It's still just kind of hugging the coastline. And we talked about how today much of the air is coming up from the Gulf of America, coming around Florida and up. And sometimes it's extending outward over the, what would that be, the Chesapeake Bay region over there. So the only front spinning otherwise would be over, what was that, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. We don't see any activity in the Atlantic. Looks pretty event free. And we'll go down to our friends in Australia and see what their winds look like. And it does look like we talked about, extending from the east, going westward, pretty much from Queensland end, will be windy. This is the cyclone that we discussed earlier, and this is the potential for a cyclone we discussed earlier, spinning off the coast of Western Australia. And they said that there's a small percent chance that it may pick up and turn eastward. So keep your eyes on that if you're in Australia. And if you're just listening on Radio X in Australia, you can come over and find us on the Para Our Normal Guys. That's guys spelled with a Z. And you can subscribe, like, follow, and share. And you can see the wind map. It's pretty cool. And if I have to, I can make it flat for Brenda. So just to make her happy. So we can, let's see, I can do that, I think. Is it? Yeah, there you go, Brenda. There's the Earth. There's the Earth for you, Brenda. The entire Earth in one big picture. You can see everything north to south and equator line straight across. Right there for you, Brenda. So there you go. Just for you, Brenda. So your pizza box. Why can't we have it in a pie? Now I'm hungry. Now you guys got me hungry. All right. Just me trying to make Brenda happy. Keep a fan happy. I love all you guys. Come on now. All right. So while we're doing that, we will look at Noah's version of this where they just show the clouds. They do not show the movement. I wish they did. That would be so cool. But we see the cloud cover, and if you zoom in, you can't really tell it, but that's probably the smoke that we were talking about. Brenda says she's proud of me. Well, thank you. And you even spelled my name right. Thank you. Thank you. It's Glen with one N. The other N was dropped at birth, and they never could find that sumbitch. So there you go. This is probably the smoke that we talked about earlier extending across. So yeah, Oklahoma City, I feel so sorry for them with all these fires. We look at their air quality there is horrible, and the smoke that it's producing is visible, obviously, from radar. And we look at our big blue globe. Can't make this one a pie. I don't think I can make this one a pie for you, Brenda. I'd have to go look. But for some reason, Australia is divided. Oh, that's the day and light map. So we see the cloud cover over Australia because it is still early morning in Australia. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for allowing me to tickle your ears overnight or as you're waking up. It's got to be horrible waking up listening to my voice. Brenda, no, I have not. And I really wish you would come over and join the chat. So this map is mainly for Wendell. Let me refresh it because he's always curious about earthquakes. I don't think there was anything new. Let me pull this up. That was yesterday. No, wait a minute. There was in San Francisco. I saw this earlier for Wendell. Let's see. A 2.6 in Alum Rock, California. Not to be confused with Canada. That's the only earthquake that is new in the United States. Nope. There's another one up in Petrolia, 2.9. So there's been two small quakes in California. I know Wendell likes this map. So, all right, you can zoom out and see the entire continent or the entire world, and it's flat for Brenda. In Australia, you have had no earthquakes on your continent. So there you go. We'll pull up this real quick. I'll refresh it to make sure I don't miss anything. This is the Global Disaster Alert and Coordination Center, and they're concerned about disasters worldwide. And you see, we talked about the earthquakes offshore. This is the new one, but this is going to be, where's this one? It doesn't tell me. It just says that it was a 5.7 offshore. What shore? Which shore? So yeah, can I zoom out? Oh, okay. So it's off the shore of South America. There we go. All right. Why did it not let me do that without zooming out? I do not know. All right, let's go back. New Zealand, 6.7. Tropical cyclone Courtney, which we discussed. It's still spinning, but it appears to be going out to the Indian Ocean and will do no harm to anyone, luckily. So we're glad for that because Australia, goodness, you guys had your hands full. Flooding in Uganda, Indonesia, Philippines, Brazil, and Argentina. Consider, while we're now talking about a volcano in Costa Rica today, and in Chile and Korea, new forest fires were reported. You can go see this for yourself. It's the Global Disaster Alert and Coordination System, and they use an acronym, which of course is GDAC, and you can go check them out and look at the most recent disasters reported around the country. And we're going to talk about, they have tried really hard to make this something, but so far, Measles cases are still high, but they have not reached pandemic levels. These haven't been updated, I don't think, since Monday, which they reported 378 cases. The only new one I saw was in, let's see, I pulled that article up. The measles case is now confirmed in Washington, D.C., and they're concerned that he may have exposed others on an Amtrak train. Measles case was confirmed in a person who traveled to Washington, D.C. on an Amtrak, according to the D.C. Department of Health. The person visited multiple locations while contagious. Well, imagine that. He's visiting D.C., including the southbound Amtrak Northeastern Regional 175 train, Union Station, MedStar Urgent Care Center, and Adams Morgan, according to the D.C. Health Department. They're working currently to inform people at these locations they may have been exposed to. The individual flew from Minnesota to Reagan National Airport, but was not contagious at the time of their flight while in Minnesota. On March 24th, an adult was confirmed in Hennepin County and traveled recently domestically and international, according to the Minnesota Department of Health and Epidemiology. The person was not infectious while in Minnesota, so we said, get out of here. There were no exposures in Minnesota. We are still investigating where this person acquired measles. So he was in Minnesota. He hopped on an Amtrak and he hopped on a plane, went to Reagan, and then from there he boarded an Amtrak. But apparently at some point in time he got so sick. I shouldn't say he, the person got so sick that they had to go see local medical care. So if you're in the DC metro area, be advised, you've had a new one. All right. We're going to cover this real quick because we talk about this a lot. We're just going to go by date and see what's new to be reported. In India, 4 children are dead and 20 are hospitalized after food poisoning at a rehab center. Kansas, the measles states, Kansas measles cases rise to 23 as they investigate link to a regional outbreak. In Ohio, health officials confirmed 10 cases of new measles outbreaks. And so those are new. Kansas and Ohio, those are new for measles. In New Zealand, we have an infection from swimming in Canterbury Lake has been reported. And nothing new there. Nothing new there. What do we have here? Sources: 4 dead, 2 injured following shooting in Pembroke Park complex. That was in Illinois, I believe. Let's see. In India, they're still protesting, and in Turkey, they're still protesting. In fact, travel advisories were just sent out through United States and Australian embassies, warning of travel to India or Turkey. In Pakistan, 2 killed, 17 injured in a Quetta blast, which they're calling terrorism, and then 6 killed in a terrorist attack on passengers in Gwadar in Pakistan. Let's see, nothing new there. And in Laos, severe air pollution is causing a problem. If you're in Laos, please wear your mask. Let's see, going down, nothing new. Trying to skim through this. 6 hospitalized after a residential fire in northern Colorado. Well, let's pull that one up real quick since well, can I pull it up? Can I? Please? Maybe? Yeah, here we go. 6 people were taken to the hospital early Thursday morning after a small residential fire in Centennial. I know right where that is. According to South Metro Fire Rescue, fire officials said crews responded to the fire, the 6,000 block of South Oneida, around 2:30 a.m. 4 people were removed from the home, and most of the fire was knocked down at 2:55. Fire officials said after the fire was reported all clear, crews reportedly searched the first floor of the home, ensured the electricity was cut off, and the cause of the fire is under investigation. All right, so they probably received smoke inhalation. It was a fire in northern Colorado. Turkey, a fire killed 1 person at a ski resort. And let's see, that's all. Explosion, fire tears through a house in London. 3 women were hospitalized. I don't remember us talking about that yesterday, so let's look real quick. Firefighters were called to a dramatic scene in Deadportford this morning following reports of an explosion and subsequent fire at a semi-detached house. The incident on Grove Street, which broke out shortly after 8 a.m. Wednesday, 26 March, saw 4 engines and around 25 firefighters swiftly contain the blaze. Emergency calls began flooding in at 8 a.m., prompting crews from Departford, Greenwich, New Cross, and Dockhead fire stations to rush to the scene. The first floor of the property was alight. I like that wording, with charred window frames and blackened exteriors visible from the street. The flames had severely damaged most of the first floor, creating a challenging scenario for responders. One woman managed to escape the burning building before emergency crews arrived and was taken to the hospital by London Ambulance Service. Firefighters rescued 2 additional women from inside the property, who were also transported to the hospital for treatment. The extent of their injuries has not yet been disclosed. Crews deployed one of London Fire Brigade's 32-meter turnable ladders. Oh, I like the way they word that. It's basically just a 100-foot aerial ladder, allowing firefighters to douse flames from above, hitting it hard from the yard. Stick, we call in the fire service, we say if the sticks go up, meaning the ladders, the building goes down. So if the sticks go up, you might as well sit outside, the building's going down. Allowing firefighters to douse the flames from above. Their efforts successfully brought the fire under control by 9:55 a.m. So it took them a little over an hour and a half. Thorough investigation that caused the explosion of the fire are ongoing, said a spokesperson for the London Fire Brigade. They responded quickly and worked efficiently to contain the fire and preventing it from spreading further. The use of the aerial ladder allowed us to gain an advantage from above, helping to bring the incident to a close safely. Emergency services are continuing to examine the scene, and investigators are still working it. All right. So that was in Europe, in the United Kingdom. And let's see, we talked about the explosion in the sugar mill, and several outdoor fires in Chad have been reported. Cameroon, this is all in Africa, and these are all new. We talked about it's a rough burn season over there. An avalanche, candidate avalanche closes a stretch of Highway 99 at the Pemberton, British Columbia. Risks remain high, and that's okay. So earthquakes, we talked about them. Latest one in Indonesia, and nothing new there. Nothing new there. I should say nothing new. We might not have covered it, being as it's overnight, but in the Kilauea volcano, it is slowly starting to erupt again. And let's see. Yep, sporadic eruptions with lava pouring out. Nothing new there. And Indonesia, one bed. We talked about that one because I didn't know what sludge was. And nothing new there. In other events, Mediterranean Sea, Western Basin, toxic fish capable of biting off human finger is spotted in the Mediterranean Sea for the first time. Okay, we know that's going to get my attention. A toxic fish. What kind of fish could this be? Marine biologists say dangerous fish that can bite off human fingers has been spotted in the Mediterranean Sea. The silver-cheeked toadfish. All right, you know we're going to Google this because we want to know what this sucker looks like. The Silver Creek toadfish. Let's pull up and see if we can see a picture. That doesn't look like a dangerous of a fish. Come on. That can't be that. Well, I don't know. He's kind of, I guess it could be. I don't know. Doesn't look, what do you guys think? Does that thing look that dangerous? Doesn't look that bad. You might want to pet him. Give him a little, oh, he gets big. He gets bigger, though. Okay, well, don't mess with the Silver Creek toadfish. Apparently, he gets much bigger. Oh, yeah. Look at that. He's got some snappers there. Let's see if I can blow this up. Now, let's do this. Open image, a new tab. Oh, yeah, look at that. He's got some teeth. So, okay. All right. They're right. Don't play with the silver-cheeked toadfish. It's dangerous to eat because its meat also contains a deadly toxin. With climate change resulting seas are getting warmer, there have been sightings in the Adriatic Sea of the Mediterranean, including one of its northernmost waters. The toadfish appearance has caused concern both for its impact on marine biodiversity and for its effect on fishing and seaside tourism. Yeah, somebody will want to pet it. So, correct, Chris. Amanda would definitely avoid this fish. We should send her a picture of it. So, yeah, the silver-cheeked toadfish come from the Suez Canal and is spread in the eastern Mediterranean. Its first sighting was 2003. So the presence of the toadfish in the northern Adriatic is a clear warning sign about expansion of where species is and possible ecological and economic consequences. Monitoring and management are important to mitigate the impact on local marine biodiversity. Yeah, don't mess with that little guy. He looks nice and cute when he's small, but yeah, he gets a little bit bigger. Yeah, don't mess with him. Let's see. Malaysia, Asia Air confirms no engine fire aboard a flight. Well, that's good. Lithuania, 3 foreign soldiers missing after an exercise in Lithuania. They are American. Yes, we know about that. We talked about the Portuguese man of war in Spain. So yeah, that's serious. And there's been some talk about in Australia, the red fire ants apparently have actually killed one person. Go away, Twitch viewer. We don't want to get your cheap views. So yeah, Australia's had the red fire ant problem apparently now with one death, and they're concerned because people are buying so many pesticides on what it will do to the environment. So a Russian cargo plane crashed in Siberia, and it doesn't say how many are dead, but I would assume the crew. And let's see, that's the only thing new there. In Italy, northern Italy, tour bus falls off bridge, plunging into Po River. 1 person killed, 3 injured. That's not good. 8 people injured following collision in Phoenix involving a city bus. And I saw a school bus wreck in New Jersey. I don't know if that will be covered in this. And injured 4. Egypt, 6 dead after a submarine sinks off the Egyptian coast in the Red Sea. Well, we hate to hear that. Russian ships burst into flame. We read about that. And I think we're pretty much at the end. Extreme rainfall. We talked about Asia, parts of Texas, in the Midwest, and other parts of South America. Hail in parts of the United States have been reported as severe. We talked about lightning. This is talking about it being in Greece. Yes, we did cover that. Saudi Arabia, I didn't catch that, or Namibia. I didn't miss that. I didn't catch those. Sorry. Or the Congo. I'll try and do better tomorrow. The persistent fog in the Russian Federation is still a problem, as well as in Italy, Romania, and Slovakia. Storms in Russia, South Korea are a potential today, along with Kansas, where we talked about China, Brazil, Ethiopia, Cameroon, and South Africa. There's probably more, but we're going to leave it at that. Let's see, we talked about that. There's the little fishy poo. Somebody do a screen grab and send that to Amanda. Tell her we miss her. So that's a cheeky fish. That is a very cheeky fish, but when it's little, it's so cute. Then it gets its molars. So all right, we talked about this, and we talked about this here. Let's see. I'm gonna bring this up, and I'm sure there's gonna be some interesting things because I didn't refresh it this morning, so I wanted to come in hot and see what we had. So here we go. It's the U.S. Interactive News Map. It's a live USA map. I get nothing from this one except for pleasure relaying it to you all. I hit the wrong button there. You need to hit that button over here. All right, so let's see what we can see here. Let's go to where our known viewers are. We'll start up here in Long Island. Let's see. NYPD crime scenes investigate shell casings in a photograph the scene where a 16-year-old was shot and killed in front of 171 42nd Liberty Avenue in Jamaica, Queens. All right. At 2:42 p.m. yesterday. All right. That was after we went off the air. Responding to a 911 call of a minor shot. Okay. Well, minors shouldn't have guns. Bronx had a 1075. 1075 is in FDNY's terms for all hands working. In other words, it's a big fire. And they need everybody. And let's see, where is this? This is in Newport. Police have arrested a man following a stabbing. And that is in, what is that, Rhode Island? That's Rhode Island, right? Yeah, it's in Rhode Island. We don't see too much happening up there. And what is this? This is over in Boston. A young man hospitalized after life-threatening injuries from a crash involving a boom truck. Well, that's bad. Boston. A New Jersey woman killed a moped driver and crashed into a police cruiser near MIT in Cambridge. Okay. Well, sorry for the moped person. Let's skip across here and we will talk about Chris. I don't see any gun violence today. Well, there's a carjacking by taken by a 20-year-old black man. How do they know he was 20? He tried to run her over and fled westbound in Chicago. How do they know he's 20? He could have been 18. Pedestrian was killed in a crash Wednesday in the western suburbs. And Chicago police are investigating a serious crash. I don't see a lot of guns up there, Chris. What happened? You're failing me. You're failing me. We'll zoom down. Let's see if anything's going on West Virginia for Cheyenne. She did report to me last night that they were getting harassing and threatening phone calls in the 911 center. Let's see. A 62-year-old woman is in custody and facing charges after victims were rescued from a business in Jefferson and New Albany. Okay, wait a minute. They were rescued from a business. I need more. I need more info. That was in Louisville. It doesn't tell us anything. 62-year-old woman is now in custody and facing charges after the victims were rescued from businesses in Jefferson and New Albany. It doesn't tell us anything. What the heck kind of business did this woman have that people had to be rescued from? And why is the 62-year-old woman doing it? Skip down here in Nashville. They're not going to let me down. Stabbings reported in Nashville. And a student accused of calling 911 twice to report a fake shooting in a Nashville school. That's not very nice. And man charged with firing shots into an East Nashville home. Well, stop shooting into homes. I'm really curious about this in Louisville, a 62-year-old woman. We'll skip over to where I'm from and see what's going on there. A 3-year-old has died and a fire broke out in a Rome apartment complex yesterday. I didn't know about that one. In Sandy Springs, a wanted man was arrested after a SWAT standoff in Cobb County. Good job, Cobb County. Officers engaged in gunfire, leaving suspect armed with firearm injured. All right, it's probably Atlanta PD. Yeah, it looks like it's down there in South Atlanta. And we'll hop over here, see if there's anything for KG. Let's see, what do we have? And one person dead in an accident involving, according to the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office. Good old Richmond never fails us. They were called to a complex after neighbors heard what sounded like several gunshots. Ooh, that's a new logo. What is that one? Father and child found dead and had been deceased inside their vehicle in an alleged murder-suicide. Where is that at? That is in Hyattsville. That's in Maryland. That's up in Andy's area. Andy, what are you doing up there? Let's see. We'll scan around here. We'll go over where Brenda is and see what's going on up there. Let's see. Police investigate death of a man found near train tracks. Where is that? That is in Abilene. And we go down closer to the border. We see a woman shot multiple times at an East Side bar. Suspect at large. Another customer drove her to the hospital, spitting out and wrecking the vehicle in the process. She made it to the hospital, life-threatening injuries. So she was shot in the bar, and her friend was wanting to save her, so she threw her in her car. I'm going to guess, just wild guess, having been a paramedic on the streets, the woman driving the car probably had consumed an alcoholic beverage or three. She spun out and lost control. They were involved in a wreck. All right. So what's the point of the story? First, don't get shot. Second, don't trust your drunk friend to take you to the hospital. A woman identified as a 61-year-old Delilah Jimenez, who is determined to have drowned. Her death has been ruled accidental. Where is this? This is in San Antonio. And father baby found dead in a possible murder-suicide. This is in San Antonio. We just reported about the one up in Maryland. What's the deal with this? There's more than one there. Let's see. A possible murder-suicide. Yeah, are there several, or am I just clicking on the same one here? This has got to be the same one. There can't possibly, well, I would hope there couldn't possibly be in North San Antonio that many murder-suicides of a father-son. Let's see. Was there anything else I knew I wanted to highlight? Wendell, I don't know if you're still with me, Wendell, but let's hop over. There's nothing in Alabama. Did want to see if it was reported in the Carolinas. Let's see. Shooting after suspect fires on deputy. And alert knockdown. Okay. Nothing. They don't have that reported yet. So And over here in the California region, let's pull up real quick. Possible shooting, LAPD responding. I was going to see, I thought there was a story, man shot by LAPD during a standoff. LAPD is always a hotbed. What could this one be? 13-year-old driver killed in a fiery crash in Fresno County. His body was identified by the coroner. San Francisco, a one-alarm fire originated in a kitchen has been contained on Warren Drive. They'll be in the scene for about an hour, mopping up. Yuba City, one person was arrested after a student was stabbed at a Butte County high school. What is up with that? We see there's several fires in Seattle. Secured electricity to impacted area. Firefighters report no active fire returning to service. Okay, well, it's nothing new to report. House fire in Everett reportedly after lightning struck the home during Wednesday night storms. That's up in Washington. All right, that's pretty much. Let me zoom out here. We saw this yesterday. What is this one? Is this the alert? France finance minister, the only possible response at the moment to U.S. tariffs to raise is our own tariffs. Makes perfect sense. It's like poker. I mean, you know what is it like? Is that a symbol or is that? Huh. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I just saw this for the first time. The USS Harry S. Truman is being reported to be off of the what is that? Is that the Mediterranean Sea? I guess that is. Let's scan around here because we know there are some Navy ships down in Florida and in Texas. See if they show any of that. No, I don't see any. It's interesting. That's the first time I've seen that. I don't see any ships. We know there's one coming from the Washington Naval Base to cover the west side of Mexico and watch for drug cartel movement. All right. It was interesting. That's the first time I've seen that pop up. Okay. Let's scan over here, see if there's anything. Nope, nothing there. Yeah, that's the first time I saw that pop up. The Harry S. Truman is in the Mediterranean. Interesting. Wonder why it's not reporting others, or is it just somebody just called it in? Huh. Okay. Well, it looks like it's at port. So, or it's going to be at port. So, all right. I can't pronounce these countries' names. I do apologize. Chris, you should be telling me what it says. So I'm kidding you, Chris. I'm kidding you. All right, we're getting close to wrapping up here. New England Fire Net, you can go join and become a member of the New England Fire Net and report fires that you hear on the scanner. And you can have them shown, brought up in the show. Yes, I know. Oh, good Lord. I gotta show my face to the camera or something, log it in this top secret site. All right. Let's see here. Let's enlarge this a little bit. We'll just scan through this real quick. We'll look here. And what is this down in Texas? Dallas, a first alarm fire on Stephanie Drive in an occupied building. In Colorado, what do we have over here? Centennial, Colorado, 2-alarm fire for a fire to 1-story dwelling. Yeah, we talked about that one. Nothing in the west reported. Hop up here to the northeast in Philadelphia. A 2-alarm fire in Chester, Pennsylvania. All right. And what is this? A shooting in Philadelphia. Did we talk about that one? On scene with male shot, patient pronounced dead by medics. No, we didn't talk about that one. All right. Where is this one? This is in Newark. A victim in critical condition. Unknown perp information after a stabbing. There's been a couple fires in Jersey. Let's see. Brooklyn had the all hands. We did talk about that one. And where's this? Bronx. There's a fire knocked down, but they've called for the hazmat unit because it was an e-bike. So we got to be cautious with the e-bikes. And let's see. Scanning around, we'll see what these are. Construction accident in Everett for scaffolding. Person fell from the 3rd floor. And multiple injuries. Peabody. It's a motor vehicle accident. Okay, so several people injured in that. I'm just scanning through. That's pretty much the synopsis of that. I hope that we can help them continue to grow by our audience supporting and calling in things. And I'm going to investigate if there's any way to find out about fire services down under, because I would like to know. All right, we'll pull this up real quick. This is the United States. It shows turbulence and it shows restricted airspaces. Of course, we still got the one around DC. This one off of Mar-a-Lago. I do not know what this line means, though. What does this line mean? So this line means that there should be no unmanned. That's just weird. It's a NOTAM, and you can't from point of origin to point of origin. Okay, because they're issuing it for unmanned aerial vehicles, and it goes from what looks like Mar-a-Lago. Let's zoom in here. See where this is. This has got to be for a rocket launch. There's no way this can't be for a rocket launch. This has got to be. So they're keeping it unmanned. There's VIP. We can pretty much figure who the VIP is. It's probably Melania or one of the first family. There's for the baseball game tonight, the air show in the Keys. But yeah, this has got to be a rocket launch because it goes. But well, I hear sirens here. But it goes from I don't know. This is weird. It goes from Miami pretty much south, due south to where does it end? Yeah, this has got to be a rocket or missile launch. Good Lord, it goes south all the way to where are we at? Zooming in here. Chris, what continent are we on? This is in Asia, isn't it? Zoom out, zoom back in. So it goes all the way over to here. So this goes all the way around the globe, a flight restriction in that one, just several mile radius area. That's very interesting. That's got to be a missile launch. That has to be a missile launch. And they don't want any unmanned aerial vehicles in the area. And I'm sure there's going to be NOTAMs put up, but that I've never seen that. So that's interesting. That's got to be a missile launch. Hopefully it's a test, unless it's a test, unless they're issuing it maybe because North Korea is going to fire something off. My geography is horrible right here. So sorry, guys. Pretty sure that's Laos. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up because that one is perplexing me. I don't know where that is and why there is a straight line like that across where you cannot fly in it. So you have to, well, obviously, most of the flights would go from here to here. There would be very few in this except for maybe over Europe, going into Asia. So yeah, I really have no idea what that is, guys. That one's new to me. I've never seen that in all my years of watching things. So, and we see that the space operations are more limited than they were previously because previously to that, it was a much larger area, but now it's just over north of Fairbanks. So, all right, we need to start winding down. If we can figure out what that is, I will get back to you on that. And looking real quick at Bitfinder, we find that there are several attacks going on constantly, as they always are, pretty much from Asia, Russia, all aiming at the United States. Down under, it looks like you're pretty secure, but right now the attacks are pretty hot and heavy on the United States, as always. So, all right, my friends at Radio X Australia, thank you. Please come over, like, follow, share, and subscribe to the Paranormal Guys. Guys is spelled with a Z on YouTube. Please come over and share and subscribe. I need your help in gaining subscriptions so that we can continue to grow the fan base. We're trying to get to 1,000, so I need your subscriptions. Everybody on Yerg's Radio and Rainbow Radio, I encourage you to come over as well and join us because, well, we're just good guys. And, well, then there's Brenda. So, yeah, everybody should come over and join the chat and the fun. I missed some comments in the chat right here. What did I miss? Smartphones suck. Yeah, okay. Brenda, are you at the airport, Brenda? What? You're not flying to Atlanta, are you? Good Lord. Please no. So, yeah. So, well, I'm not in Atlanta. Go ahead, fly to Atlanta. So, yeah, there you see that. All the cyber attacks with the attacks, infections, and spam. We'll wind up real quick. I found a new map that is kind of cool, but I didn't get to it today. It's trains of North America. You can track on a map and see if they're on time, late, or just where the heck are they. So I found that and was going to share that. Otherwise, that's the only thing new I had. We didn't make it. I know Wendell hates it. We didn't make it to sports. Okay, Rainbow Radio timed out, so we lost connection to Rainbow Radio, but we are still live on Yerg's Radio. Okay, so Yerg's, if you're listening, we timed out on Rainbow Radio for some reason. So the other thing we didn't talk about, and I'll just hit it real quick with my regular group, is a Marysville Police Department officer was killed. Officer Osmar Rodart was killed in the line of duty yesterday during SWAT team operations in California. We'll talk more about that later. Tomorrow maybe. And to date, there are no more firefighter deaths, which is always a good thing. All right, I'm going to wrap up and get out of here because I know you guys are tired of hearing me talk, and well, I may actually be tired of hearing myself talk. So I have no more shows scheduled for this week except for tomorrow. We have the normal Daily Gazette. Other than that, we won't have a show until the following Monday. So we will be off the weekend unless there's some breaking news or something exciting happens. Everybody have a great day. A safe day. I hope that your day goes well, and we will see you. Denise, thank you. Thank you for hanging around. I really appreciate the support. And I'm trying to find my sound button here. Here we go. I think Mix is messing with me. As I tell everybody,
in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
That's right. In case I don't see you, no matter what part of the world you're in, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning, good day. Have a great one. I will see you tomorrow. Same time, same location, 1 o'clock Eastern time, 5 a.m. in Australia. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye, Brenda. Have a great day. We'll talk later.